Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. I am your humble host, David Null, also known as Hawkeye Two Feathers. And I continue to pray that each and every day, that each and every one of you will learn to accept and receive the healing, the knowledge, and the wisdom and the blessings from the universe. And with that said, I do continue to pray that I'm hoping y'all are getting by all right with all this stuff going on just in the universe. And it's almost 4:20 in the morning here, Eastern Daylight Time. I'm sorry, Eastern Standard. It's not quite daylight. I'm having two different thoughts. But anyway, so if you believe in 420, then hey, it's almost 420 somewhere in the world. It's almost 420 here. So, as sort of a giggle and a snicker and um, a wink and a nod there, Travis, how are you? Good morning to you as well. And so I was like feeling a little antsy. Um, haven't quite figured out why. Just stuff going on. And so I was like, well, I could be sitting here and be antsy, and what am I antsy about, and why am I feeling nervous? There's nothing really, that just, kind of analyzing um, the self, doing I. It's not necessarily internal work, but it is, like, okay, there's something going on here. I'm feeling kind of woo or something, and so I wonder what that is. Wonder what's causing it. So there's first thing I do is I check online and I see what the Schumann resonance is doing, and it's kind of calm. So it's like, well, okay, so it's not that. 3 minutes. Thanks, man. You're welcome. Smoke if you got them, right? What time is it? I got to put my glasses on to see the clock. Oh, 2 minutes. Okay. I'm ready, you know. But and looking at I'm thinking, I've had these discussions before with y'all, in that there's just so much confusion in the universe, that it's permeating into all of us. It's affecting in our dream states, and I've been trying to like stay away from the news and stuff. I have to. It is my job, that I have to collect information, so I can be the messenger, keep out, see what the signs are, kind of thing. It's sort of like being in nature, and you're walking around and you need to observe the trees and the birds and the flowers and the bees and the room up above and a thing called love. Okay, anyway, uh, one more minute. So, um, I'm thinking about this, and there's a lot of confusion. And so one of the things that for some reason my brain goes there, and it's almost 420. So, um, what is my reaction now? Because I spent years and years and years, like 20 some odd years, on going to therapy and taking medicine because of all the head bangs I've had. It literally kind of made me nuts. 420, time to go. All right, smoke if you got them. Cheers. And here's to Bob also, the AI. For those of you who don't quite haven't been in on the joke about Bob, Bob is the name we have given, is the name of one of the AIs, and it's one of the good guys, kind of thing. So we always toast Bob, the AI, which means YouTube and them, that we have a safe journey, and few glitches and, or no glitches. That's even better. But anyway, so with this sort of agitation in the air for me, I'm like, so where's this coming from? So my brain wants to go, well, I'm having a panic attack. Well, it's sort of similar. I mean, it's got a little bit of that edge. And I'm, well, is it? No, it's not. It's not the Shaman. So, it could still be cosmic energy. But whatever is like tweaking me at the moment, currently, as I speak to you now live at 4:20 in the morning, smoke if you got them. Um, my brain wants to. It always wonders if it's my condition coming back. You know, oh well, there was for so many years was diagnosed as bipolar, and then I was this, and then I was that, and then they turned me into a vegetable for about 8 months, and to where I was drooling and couldn't drive a car. I almost died during that incident from what they did to me with taking medicines away and add new ones and then taking them away and then giving me nothing. Oh, it was nuts. But anyway, so with that, my brain wants to go back and go, we're not having one of those periods, are we? It's sort of a self-defense mode that I've come up with for myself, because one thing I surely don't want to do is backslide in that area. If there's something going on in my brain, and is it family, is there some kind of tension in the universe, could be a lot of stuff. So in the past, I would be sitting here kind of sort of freaking out because, whoa, I feel tingly, I don't know what's going on, and oh my god, I must be I'm crazy, I'm going out of my mind. Well, and I had a lot of meds in me at the time to kind of help promote that feeling of paranoia. So, and I'm very glad that over the last 3 years, without having any of those types of drugs in me, that I've been able to, whatever those feelings are. And I just thought it was a coincidence that it's 4:20 in the morning. Well, 4:22 now, 23. Sorry. That I was like, well, why not have this conversation? I know there are people that are up late and they're, hey, Barry Chad, hi, how are you? You can't sleep either. Novistra, check them out. Can you explain, Travis, what is Novistra? Anyway, so the idea, though, that it's like, well, wait a minute, now what's going on? Well, we can my first thought is like when I say, okay, guys, what's going on here, And the answer is, listen, it's what you've already discussed, Hawkeye. It's that there's so much chaos going on in the universe that we're feeling it. And I'm, okay, is that the answer? So I'm in the process of mulling it over right now with y'all live. So it's like, why not have this conversation live in that, here's these emotions that are currently going on with me, how I would have dealt with them before. And, Barry, you can't sleep either. So it's like, here we go. But anyway, so how do we deal with these kinds of feelings? And so, if I hadn't done this, if I hadn't started this video, I was already going through this process of, well, I'm eliminating this and that and this and that, and coming to that rationale, that calm spot, even though I'm still kind of feeling kind of antsy for some reason. It's almost like something nasty is about to happen, and it's like, don't want to go there, right? So sometimes there's premonitions in this that I'll write them down or make note of them or whatever. And so maybe there's something to be said in this conversation about this energy. So in thinking on this not too long, I came up with the title of this, having faith in the universe, because that was the message I was getting from my higher self thing, my spirit. I like to say spirit guide, because in my understandings and teachings, and still learning through native cultures, it's the spirit guide. It's the spirit of grandmother or grandfather. It's the ancients, which in lots of ways, when we bring those words forward, it's our akashic record. It's our soul journey. It's our past and our future combined. As Bear says, the answers are already given to the questions that will be asked, and it's all out there in the silence. And you have to be silent in order to hear the answers. Now, that's from some of the card readings, and I can't remember which particular card that is. I want to say one of them is part buffalo and part of it is bear, because in the hibernation of the silence, where bear medicine says to, go in your cave and hibernate a little bit. And it doesn't mean that you're going in to be depressed. It doesn't mean you're going to go in there and be all nasty and, oh my God, man. No, no. It means you're going to take a quiet time and you're going to go within and you're just going to hang out there. And you're not going to really worry about any particular thing. So whatever is troubling you, if you be still, be silent, then in that silence and with your eyes closed, some apparent darkness, okay, so you don't have to do anything special to go to use bear medicine. You just think about what it is to hibernate and what that feeling would be to, okay, I'm just going to hibernate within my own thoughts here and see what the universe, because I don't have to speak it, because whatever's bothering me is already in my head, right? Or in our heads, depending on what it is. But I mean, concerning this right now, for example. So it's in my head. So ask the universe. So I want to, I hate to use this word, but I sort of invoke the bear medicine. I take that back. I take that word evoke. Bang, take it away. Nope, sorry. I use simply bear medicine and the bear medicine philosophy. I'm not evoking anything. That was a wrong word. So, but I take it back. So anyway, but in that, and which kind of lends to a little short story here to slightly go off on a tangent, but not really, in that it's because it's a bear story. And back about 2002, 2003, I went out to Arkansas to the Buffalo River. And I'd been out there before. And I love Arkansas, especially the northern portion. Although the Ouachita Mountains down in the southwest corner of Arkansas, it's really beautiful in some of them places too. So, but anyway, I spent more time in northern Arkansas. But so planned this overnight stay, overnight trip on the Buffalo River through a wilderness area. And, they had a rain several days before our time was to, we were in another part of Arkansas when they had this big rain. And it flooded out the canyon there because the Buffalo River, there's not a little any tributaries. So any water that falls, it immediately comes up. Now, down here in my swamp, it can rain a couple of inches and you won't see the river come up. It'll come up slightly depending on runoff and stuff like that. But the Buffalo River out there, because of the rock and the terrain, if it rains 3 inches, that river is going to rise 3 feet or more, But anyway, I've noticed around here that if it rains so many inches, the I watched the local gauges and the water rises in the rivers. Anyway, what's this got to do with it? Well, we were camped on this beach overnight in the middle of nowhere, you know, that you weren't just going to be able to run out. And had, I think I found the picture. I was looking for this the other day. Let's see if this will show up. Let me turn this and put a little more light on the picture. Anyway, so can you see the canoe? There's my hat there and the river in the background, and there's the mountains. And so we were camped on this on the beach at this particular place there. Beautiful spot. And I'm smart enough to know, because we had seen many bear. But anytime I'm in the wilderness like that, I don't want to have any Snickers bars, in my sleeping bag, kind of thing. That's a no. So we had a little enough. We had plenty to eat. We had a cooler with not any kind of meat or anything in it, just some other types of snacks. But we put those up in a tree along with our garbage, which wasn't much. And so traveled really light. It was great. But anyway, so pulled the stuff up in the tree and tied it off at the far end of where we were camped. Well, during the night at about this time in the morning, actually, welcome, bear, laying there, you sleeping, and I hear this snorting, like I'm laying down, and right above my head, the tent is, my head's almost, it was a small pup tent kind of thing. So my head's touching the back of the tent just slightly. And I feel the tension on the back of on the tent on my head. And so my wife's like, there's a bear. And I'm like, shut up. There's a bear. And I'm like, shut up. Bear, what? Shut up. And so as I'm laying there looking up in the twilight of the evening, Willie Nelson. But anyway, I see this nose push the tent in, and I hear this, whoo, whoo, whoo. And and I'm like, well, what are you going to do? My wife is like, at the time, what are we going to do? I'm like, would you shut up? There's the door. We had already gone through this. If such a thing had happened, we were going out the front door, which was opposite of the bear, across to where in the picture you saw that canoe, to go to the canoe, get on the other side of the canoe, and maybe dump it over on our way, to the river, and get in the river, simply because a bear is going to be a whole lot easier to get away from in the river. On land, he's we're done, right? So, but I'm not worried about that. So in my own intuition, I'd had dreams of bear before we went on this trip. So I wasn't necessarily expecting to have a bear literally come about this close from my face, and visit us. And so the next morning, we heard it huff off and walk up the beach or down the beach, depending. It went both ways. But then the prince just went up the river, up the wall of the riverbank, which was pretty steep. So it was like interesting. Couldn't find a print anywhere on the mountain, which was not far behind us. But anyway, so somewhere there are pictures in a file folder on a computer somewhere. But anyway, of these paw prints, and where the bear had stood literally right behind, above my head, with only a piece of fabric between you and a large black bear. But to my point, my wife at the time was just petrified. And I'm thinking, I just had a visit from a bear. In my dreams and what I was learning, and I was really starting to get my feet wet in the shaman area. I'd had some visits from a spirit entity, a grandmother entity, although she didn't look like a grandmother, but an elder. And she called, and her name to me was White Dove. and she said she was from the Cherokee Nation. And there were many times I had about an hour's drive to work or home. You know, it's 2 hours on the road every day. And so there were times, you know, no radio or anything, and I'd look over in the seat, and she'd be sitting there. I could see through her, but it was like she was solid enough. I could see, you know, her hands, and you know, I could see if she turned and the color of her hair, and she wore a white buckskin, just a very simple, uh, traditional native, you know, garb. So anyway, and she got me into the shaman thing, you know, and there are times when I have often wondered if this was the Mother Mary essence coming through to me in the Indian way, because, you know, I pretty much disavow the Catholics, and their point of view on most things anymore. But, the interesting thing though, but there was a lot that I learned with those conversations with this spirit entity, you know, and it was always positive, and there were times when I was really feeling kind of low, and she'd pop up. So, and what's this got to do with all this? Well, in that she was telling me about bear, and I was learning about, bear medicine. In fact, I had met a gentleman through the powwows that I was, doing puppet shows and storytelling at. There, I met a gentleman who was like 6'6", and he was, from the Lakota tribe out there in out west, and, his nickname was Bear. And he literally had a bear skin with the head and everything that he wore. And when he went to the powwows, it was to show that off, but it was because, he had learned how to throw an axe. So he would teach people, how to throw an axe. So they would pay him to show up on these weekends, and also sometimes to fill in with, um, if someone needed an extra drummer for the drum, and, which has happened at occasions, you know. So anyway, he could fill in if necessary. But so with all this said, though, there was all of this information about bear, and then the bear shows up, and that close, and I'm going to myself, you know, now that's interesting, coincidental or whatever. All right. So let's move this forward to why is this important now? Well, I've pulled the bear card several times in these readings, and I keep getting this image, you know, of what is important to us right now. So regardless of who is winning or isn't winning in the race, regardless of whose God is the right one, or if there ain't one, who's whatever, you know, Ford, Chevy, Chrysler, Jeep, you know, which is Chrysler, but anyway, um, or a Yugo, you know. But regardless of what anything is, and how I might feel about a particular subject, or how we may feel, okay, I'm not trying to, project this onto you, but it is sort of what we're all feeling, this anxiety, like, you know, God, what's going to happen next, you know? And there is this convergence coming up, supposedly. I'm not sure. So I haven't checked it out myself. Shame on me, but I've been busy doing some other things. But on December the 21st of this year. And, yeah, I know Saturn and Jupiter are getting really close, and I think they're going to not necessarily line up, but from our point of view. So, but anyway, a lot of stuff going on. So, the bear medicine and seeking the answers that are already in the universe. So, people right now, regardless of, well, I don't trust the Catholic Church. Well, I don't trust the government. Well, I don't trust anybody anymore. You know, it's one of those old songs. So it's like, but we know for certain that some lovely day, someone will set the spark off, and we could all be blown away. They're rioting in Africa. They're starving in Spain. There's hurricanes in Florida, and Texas needs rain. It's the Kingston Trio song. Anyway, so, but I've thought about that, and that was in the 50s, and early 60s. But here's these guys singing these, old folk. They're not necessarily folk songs, but the words and the actions and everything in those songs are still valid today. It's like, well, I'll be damned. There, there's still, there's still places trying to blow each other up after all this time. Why can't we learn to get along? Some minister of something in Iran or Iraq, whatever, was murdered, and oh boy, here we go again, right? So somebody wants war somewhere. So are we going to get upset about that? Well, there is that negative energy. There is that tension that's out there. How do most of us feel about it? We don't want it to happen, right? But now there's a few people are going, oh yeah, this is what we need. And other folks are going, yeah, right. That's what that we don't really need it, but they go along because they're supposed to, right? We've been taught to go along. So there's such a change going on right now. And I've talked about this, little old granny ladies. This does have that. It is part of this. It's the awareness. It's little old ladies and little old men who are going, no, I'm not wearing a mask. No, I did Thanksgiving yesterday. Oh, this is only Friday, ain't it? Anyway, so blessings to you all. But in that, I was sitting right next to their grandma. And, shoulder to shoulder. Now, we didn't hug and kiss or anything like that, but it's like nobody was worried about any of us getting something from the other person because everybody was well, And it was like, and their kids are too young to go to school. So it's like, and depending on where they go or who they meet, which is not too much interaction, then nobody's ill, nobody's sick. So nobody saw the need to, do the mask thing. But I'm hearing about this today and looking at the news and some folks reporting on YouTube videos and things about, that, they want to know, they want folks to rat on each other and ask the kids in school, how many people did you have over at your house? And it's like, are you serious? And some of these folks are they're serious. I'm like, this has begun to be so absurd beyond the point of like, we have to laugh at but they mean it. That's the trouble. But the worse it gets, people are going, nah, no, I'm sorry, ain't buying this, So nobody was 6 feet apart. There was a lot of playing going on yesterday at the Thanksgiving, and and I'm like, oh, let me count. There were 3 kids, wife and husband, granny, mama, brother / son, and me, and then the other papa. So there's 10 people there, and 9 of us were in the dining room and the kitchen at one time. So, oh my goodness, did we go? Now, Georgia has city limits, but to the point where, in some places people were encouraged not to sing and not to hug grandma. Okay. I mean, are you serious? And that's some of the comments. And now I know it was said before, but they're like, they want to check up on people now, and some of these states have gone bananas. So I'm saying this because this is the energy that's being put into our universe that wasn't there 6 months ago. It wasn't there a month ago. It was working up to it, but now that we got to Thanksgiving and this weekend, and it's sort of a crescendo of this energy, right? And people's feelings and this and that. So this is going on all over the planet. because a lot of places are saying, "Oh no, we ain't going. We've had enough of this lockdown bullshit." Sorry, but there it is. And I myself feel the same way. I've had the flu so many times over the years, and I remember two times, um, both of them in the 80s. One of them might have been like in the early 90s, but damn near killed me. I mean, I was sick here by myself at the house and couldn't get downstairs. Oh my God, oh man, that was another one I made it through. Why am I still here? But boy, howdy, I can tell you for 4 or 5 days, it was the pits. So, and there are folks who said, we've had the symptoms and we stayed home, felt lousy for a couple of days and tired and achy, but I felt better on the third day and I feel fine now after a week. So it's going around. People ain't reporting it. They're not going into the hospital, but they have the symptoms. And it's like, it has to run its course. I would rather go ahead and get it and feel bad for a couple of days and take my chances as I have with any other virus that's been here before. Why are they picking on this one? You know, they never gave a shit about any of them before. Just saying. I'm sort of repeating what a lot of other people are thinking right now. So, anyway, what does that have to do with faith? Because we've lost faith in everything else. We've lost faith in what they tell us about the doctors. We've lost faith in our politicians, both sides, okay? We've lost faith in the churches. We've lost faith in this, faith in that, faith in each other because, some family members, well, I'm not talking about any in particular, but out there in the universe, um, I don't want anybody to think I'm talking about my family, but, you know, to that though, there are families who are, lopsided and, oh, you got to wear the mask everywhere. No, if you're going to go in someplace, put the mask on if they want and don't argue too much. But when you get out, take the damn thing off and go about your business. And this idea that no, you have to wear it all the time and you have to wear it in your car and you have to wear it in your house with the other people in the house. They're selling sprays, right? And they're, these new sprays, if you touch anything, like the banister on the stairs, you might have germs. Okay, if you make your house, it's been proven, if you make your house so clean that you don't get any germs, your body can't build up any antibodies. Okay. But here's another point. If you wash your hands when you come in the house, then you ain't got no germs unless you pick them up in the house. And if you've cleaned the house, then why would you go around and worry about spraying behind each other? And well, oh, little Johnny, came downstairs. I could better wipe the counter. Well, is there something in the house that little Johnny was going to pass it onto the counter on the table? I mean, this has gotten ridiculous. I know I'm on a tirade, but it's humorous because I'm going, these people really believe this. Little Johnny's going to carry germs from downstairs when he does his homework on the kitchen table. Oh my God, are you okay? I bring this up because it's part of what's going on. It's part of this. It's new chaos because it wasn't there before. Last year at this time, we had other things to worry about, and it wasn't this kind of BS, right? The people were more worried about getting trampled going into Walmart on the next day on the Black Friday, right? So things have changed. But here, what should not have changed, what should always stay the constant, is our faith in the universe. Now you can say, oh, okay, Dave, what you talking about here? And I'm going to defer this question to Hawkeye's side of me. And that Hawkeye side of me and the message that I keep getting for myself that I always want to share is that when things get a little weird out there, you have to have faith in yourself. And I have talked about this, but it's getting crazier beyond imagination right now. So their spirits are asking me, remind these folks, this ain't preaching, but it kind of sort of is, in that it isn't about any particular God or entity. It is about having faith in the universe. That, now, here's the thing. A meteor could come through the house and strike me dead. Okay. And I had a couple of Thanksgivings ago. It was about 6 or 7 years ago now. I went outside to get firewood right outside my back door, and this great big huge oak limb broke out of the tree over my house and landed on my head and knocked me out. And I was splayed out on the ground with this big oak limb on me. I woke up sometime later, going, what the hell was that all about? And I mean, knocked me cold out. And it was cold outside. So, and I heard this crack, and as I started to look up, it hit me, literally. So, I've had some really odd, consequential things that I could say God tried to smite me right there. But here's the bottom line. Stuff happens in the universe. Sometimes I wonder if it hadn't happened to me a little too often, but but at the same time, we have to have faith that we will still be our spiritual self. And this is sort of what Jesus was trying to get across, all right? In that, listen, it doesn't matter, because what matters is whether or not you've got your stuff right for when you make when you go to the next level, right? We go back to who we were with this added experience of this life. And, we, as spiritual beings, one of the slightly off track, but one of the things that has been suggested, that what fallen angels were, this is one theory, and I want to say it may have come through Casey readings, but don't quote me on that one. I'm just, because I've had this understanding for a long time, and it would to me necessarily probably be something that I read from Casey, because I read a lot of Casey back in the late 60s and 70s and into the 80s too. But anyway, so the idea, though, that the fallen angel was that the spirit beings took human form and forgot who they were, and they became human. So and the curse, if you will, was that so any new spirit born into beings down here will forget who they were. Okay. And so in the great remembering of why am I here, which a lot of us have asked me, myself, and I several times, we've asked each other, hey, Hawkeye, what the hell are we doing here? I don't know, Dave. It's some crazy mess, ain't it? And then the third part of me goes, you two are always arguing, shame on you. But the camp counselor. So anytime there's an argument between my two selves, it always defers to the camp counselor, who's sort of like, Mr. Spock, analytical, right? But anyway, so that's how I dealt with, the bipolar thing. It's like, let it run. But here's the thing. We learn to control it. When you feel something coming on, you go, hang on. That's the video this morning. And greetings, everybody. Estee, how are you? I'm sorry. Travis, and Joyce, how are you? There is no virus, right? But in all of this mess, so I'm going off track on some of this, but it all has to do with the universe. So, but in my learnings and understanding, so in this idea, though, that we are all fallen angels because we have become trapped within these physical bodies. Now, back in the day, that was supposed to be the reason why humanity got spirits. Anyway, That's just a theory. But it is an idea that you just should go, that in a way that makes sense. They came down here to help, but then they ended up staying. Whoops, not what they were supposed to do. So, could that mean that they fell, having nothing to do with, disagreeing with God which I seriously do not believe in this. Now, I believe that there are negative entities who claim to be gods, but in the greater sense of the universe, which is always there, the energy's always around us. I read that card the other night, and that, in the air is everything we need. I think it was Dolphin card that I read last night, and that in that, the air has all the necessary energy that we need if we understand how to use it. And it's commonly referred to, um, as being a breatharian, that you can literally live off of breath. And there are monks who have gone without eating for weeks, and they claim that that's how that's how they do it. They understand that if they go into this deep meditation for as long as they do it, the universe will sustain them. And so, in order to do that, you have to have faith. Well, I've talked about, that time I spent 3 days down on the river, and it was supposed to be like 6 hours, and it ended up 3 days. But where normally other people might have not made it, with lack of water, the heat, all the above, regardless of the religious experience that I had. But in all of this, it relates to the fact that, wait, there is more to this universe than we can sense or see, and that the universe is always there. Because whatever happened to me that weekend, I was sustained mostly on air. Very little to drink and almost no food. A couple of moon pies and one of those little Debbie cake fudge rounds. That was it, because we weren't supposed to be gone that long. But anyway, so the fact that my personal experience says, you know what, I can see truth in that. And I have believed over the years that if need be, and I've done fasting, started out in the Catholic Church, but there are times when I just, I might not eat for a day or two. I might like have I have these little fig bars, and I might eat one of the two of those to help when I take my uh, ibuprofen. But in that, though, 2 or 3 days of eating very little, and understanding that, is, oh, I'm not going to die, and I can go eat it anytime I want, but I choose not to. And because I understand that I can just get the necessary energy just from breathing and just being here by having faith. So that's why I'm bringing all this around. Having faith through my own experiences, and you all use yours, as you need them, see fit. But regardless of what happens, Biden or Trump, doesn't matter. If we have faith that we ourselves are still going to manage this universe. I mean, even if some crazy, don't want to go there thing happens, because it's already happening. So, and many of us are learning to be able to discern what is the truth and what just is hogwash, at least to us. And that's what's important, because now we're having the confidence to be able to say, my spirit says this is wrong. That's wrong. That's wrong. Where's the justice in this? These people get away with it, and those folks don't. These folks make the rules, but they can break them. But all the rest of us fools have to follow along. Hang on. Wait a minute. So, but if we have faith in the universe, that regardless of how it goes, we still stand our ground in that we know who we are. Now, if someone tends to be an obnoxious asshole and say, well, I'm right about this, hang on. Part of this deal is you must be able to be humble in this. You just look folks in the eye and go, I'm sorry, but I've kind of drawn a little line in the sand here, and this is how I feel about it. I don't want to argue with you. I don't want to make a scene, but sorry, this is how I feel. And people, and they're going to want to get a reaction out of us, right? So this is the time when we need to stand fast in our faith. And Native Americans and folks talk about the great creator. Now, the great creator is not an individual, okay? Many people have to, because of the Christian Judeo kind of thing. God is a single entity. No, okay? That's one of the things you have to have faith, because would you really want to leave this up to just one crazy dude with a beard and a trident or a staff or something, who smites people with diseases and takes revenge? I'm sorry. That is not my creator, because why would creator want to kill that which he created? And I say he, creator, whatever creator creates. Why would they want to destroy it? So, but in this grand scheme of thing, the idea of source energy, it's all around us. It's all connected. Spider web, this, that, we're all connected. So we are attached to God right now, if you will. So, but because we're always attached to the universe. But with the chaos that enters our brains and the little sidetracks that we go off on, like I just did for the last 30 minutes or so, is that at the bottom line, at the end of the discussion, we say this. I know how I feel about this. I know that I'm a part of the universe. I know I'm an angel being, spirit being, and regardless of what happens on this planet, I'm gonna return to myself and be closer to the source, because I won't have this meat bag to interfere. So in whatever we do, regardless of what happens, the main thing we need to do is have faith in ourselves, without religion, without any, no judgments, because and it's come across several times in some of the things I've been watching, Native American stuff and readings and this and that in order to truly transcend, you must understand, and it's difficult, you must understand and learn how to respect all beings. Because as I was reading in one of the cards last night, it was yesterday morning, but anyway, I got to thinking about which character it was, then I forgot what I was talking about. Anyway, but in this conversation, though, of the spirit, if you simply understand, and as a shaman in training, one of the first things the shamans should ask you is, what do you believe? And, the people is going to look back and go, what do you mean? What do I believe? Do you believe in the creator? Well, but creator isn't a person. Creator is a source energy. Could have thousands or millions of beings that are intertwined with this source energy. And we're all a part of this, because even in the Bible, it says we are made in the image and likeness of God. Now, does God look like this? No, because how we're truly made is our spirits are like his. We're made in that image, not this one. You know, a little bit. They're telling us the truth, but then they trick us and go, he looks like us. He looks like our spirits do. When we return to that, so we are made in the image and likeness of the source energy because we're a part of it. And it's like, oh wow, that was well. So in your understanding of the basics of quote shamanism, now I know there are a lot of other folks out there that want to talk about other kind of things, but I'm just saying, I've talked with some really wise people over the years. And in this simple understanding, rather than make it complicated, and it is because, you can use that, the law of one of do no harm. And people go, wait a minute now, but you know, if you're trying to control anything with a consciousness and for folks to do your bidding or whatever, now you can ask folks, hey, let's all do this, and here's my idea. What y'all think? Like I used to do with theater, you come up with a play and show it to folks, and they go, sure, let's do this play, and they stick me being with the director, which was fine for me. But anyway, so, but if I were to force myself into the theater and go, okay, everybody, we're going to learn how to do this play. And they go, wait a minute now, who made you king, right? So with that said, so in the universe, we're all a part of this, and we can choose to be in a Shakespeare play, or we can choose to be in a band, or we can choose to be in a chorus, or we can but we're all participating. Our energies are still all connected to this, to the source. So the young pupil would ask the shaman, one of the questions would be, well, so where does the great creator live? And the answer is everywhere. What? Yep, everywhere. Because that energy, that source energy is everywhere. So, in basic shamanism, in the basic understanding of spiritualism, having nothing to do with religion, the spiritualist side of this says we must understand these simple things before we get any more complicated. Well, how does this exist with that? Hang on. Let's just understand number one, that all things are connected because of this energy. We have to start there. So, in having a conversation with a friend of mine, and I have done this and have understood this, and it does come, I believe, from an Eastern traditional, how do I put this? I don't want, well, religion, belief, Buddhism, Hinduism, something like that. But I ain't quoting anybody. But the idea is to understand the true nature of things. One must be able to, and now to some folks, they believe that you reincarnate, or you incarnate into, an insect, a butterfly, and then you're a frog, and then you're a bird, and then you're a this, and then you're a that. But here's the thing: in the spiritual journey with shamans and medicine folk that yep, um, you must look at things from an insect's point of view. So you don't have to reincarnate into an insect and become, in order to sit and meditate, watch the bugs, observe them, see what they do, and and realize, okay, I'm going to put everything else out of my mind. What's that ant doing? What's that uh, little wasp doing? I've got wasps that dig these holes in the ground and they go catch worms and drag them down in. It's fascinating. The worms are bigger than they are, and they just drag them in. It's strange, it's interesting, and it's sort of creepy in a way too. But anyway, that I've got all these things living right outside the house in the ground, right? There's all these wasps that are eating wormies down there, and they're making more wasps because they ingest they inject the worms, I believe, with the eggs. So as the eggs hatch, anyways, they eat worms. So, but in the fascination of nature, though, if you're thinking to yourself, here's this wasp, and how he flew in with this thing. Okay, now it's one thing for the wasp to fly because it's a little odd looking, but it's another thing to carry in a caterpillar or a worm that's bigger than itself. I mean, especially bigger around and probably longer. Unbelievable. So you think, so now your mind is, well, here's a wormy critter that would turn into a butterfly if and fly away from this critter had this critter not caught it. And but how did he get it there? I mean, okay, so he's got two sets of wings. I mean, the idea of just the mechanics of this could keep someone thinking on something for a long time if they chose to do so. But to look at it from an insect's point of view, and then look at it from the worm's point of view, who's getting drug into the hole to get turned into food, and look at it from the wasp point of view, in that he's fixing, or she is fixing, to feed the hungry, the kids. And so predator thing on all kinds of levels, right? The in if anybody knows what an oh crap, I just had it in my head. Anyway, it's an ant giant or something. But anyway, they make these little cones in the sand, and an ant will slide down them, sort of like that big critter that was in the Star Wars movie. And they went down, and there was sort of a cone shaped, and they went down into the worm's mouth, kind of same thing. But they eat ants anyway. But so this idea, though, that on all different levels, all these things are going on in nature, and you go, so what is my part in it? Things are going to continue one way or the other, regardless of how we feel about the insects in the yard and the part they play in the whole grand scheme of things, right? What do those bugs have? What do frogs have to do with it? What do birds have to do with it? But if you want to understand the nature of things, having nothing necessarily to do with man, then you must start at these lower levels. But I think that wasp that could hunt that worm down, dig the hole, drag him into it, that wasp has got some intelligence. It knows where the hole is. It covers it up. It knows where the terrain is. These are some smart little buggers, pun intended. So we have to ask ourselves, where does intelligence come into things? How smart are we really? There's an insect that can navigate all around, bring worms in, feed the young, dig a hole, but they're the dumb ones, right? I know some human beings that couldn't come even close to performing some kind of thing like that. You want me to do what? Yeah, okay. Answer your phone. So we deal with everything with the same simple answer. Now, every day it changes because the chaos changes. Now, for us, if can we think back a year ago and remember we thought it was all woo and everything versus this year? Oh, holy crap. None of us saw this coming. We knew something was up, but we didn't know what, right? So the shamans would say stuff happens. Now, is this the universe that's doing this to us? And the simple answer is not, nope. Maybe some of it, but no, not really. It's other human beings who are doing this to us. Now, I have to stop right there and say, I feel like I'm a human being, maybe a hybrid of some type. We all are, let's face it, right? So, but I consider myself a human being versus an alien or a reptilian or something. You know what I mean? So, but some of the things that happen, some of the things that, quote, human beings do to other humans. I I have studied this over the years, and having been incarcerated and watched, there are certain jailers that are nice people, and that unless one of the prisoners gives them a hassle, um, they they're cool. They just say, "Look, it's my job. Just come on. You come here. You go there, and everything's fine." But then there are those guards or the jailers or the cops who have to grab you by the arm and give you a shove and say, "Get in there," when it's not necessary. So in human behavior, there are those of us who just we wouldn't do that. As a human being, I would seriously have a bunch of issues about eating another human being. Being relatively, um, well, an off and on vegetarian. Since Duggar moved in, I've eaten more meat, but he gets as much as I do. So, but anyway, supplement his diet with real meat. Anyway, but in this idea, though, of control, no one controls us, not spiritually. So, regardless of what they come up with next to do to us, or how they want to, try to mask us or, distance us, whatever that is, we know that if we have faith in our spirits and our mental acuity, our mental uh, powers, if you will, I try not to use that word, but with our gifts, our talents, so we hone them, so we can hear somebody needing help somewhere and go, "Ooh, I didn't even need a cell phone." Me and my granny had that. I've talked about that, but to the point though, and y'all know, there are some of you who have these connections with other people. That's great. Let's practice that without trying to get in somebody else's business. But we also have to make sure that we stay calm within ourselves, because if we do wish to hone our skills, the best way to communicate to another person is to not be all agitated and freaky out and stuff like that, because then the person on the other end is actually, it's like you're screaming in their ear. You know what I mean? Maybe you don't, but in a way, that's what it's like. So if I'm having a bad day and I'm screaming it, and I'm sending it out to the universe, those people who would be listening would go, "What the hell was that?" Right? So we'd rather not do that. I'd much rather receive a message that says, "Hawkeye needs help. Give him a call." Oh, okay. You know what I mean? Versus a panic attack. But sometimes panic attacks happen. We have to deal with those too. So, but anyway, hey, Isby, how are you? And Estee and Barry. Um, all right, I just realized it's been an hour. Thank you, Estee. Um, I gotta say this to your statement, Isby. People will create a black hole, not just women, but people will create um, black holes. That's just it. Now, myself not being gay, I've had two wives that were, very dark and just weird, and like, how in the hell did I marry that expletive deleted about two paragraphs long? And think to myself, boy, howdy, but what the hell was I thinking? But I was being played. Um, I mean, I got phone calls from the state attorney general's office in Austin, Texas, asking questions about which was then my ex-wife, and I'm going, what? She did what? Holy crap! So anyway, and then I found out what she did to me, and uh, got a couple of credit cards, signed my name on it because back then I had good credit. She ruined that. But anyway, so in all of these things, I get it. But I've also been burned by some by men just as nasty. Now I wasn't married to them, but in had I been married to him, it would have just been as bad. So, but anyway, but it's people. Let's put it out there. There are some people that some of their actions just don't seem quite human. They just seem like they got a whole new perspective of stuff over there, you know? And we have to stop and go, where did you get that from? Because most human beings that I know of don't think about things like that, you know? I'm sorry. I know that, country folk have, you know, in different parts of the world, have a different point of view than that of folks in the city and blah, blah. But to the point, though, it's like some of this stuff is just like weird, right? So we have to ask ourselves, do these people have traits of a different ancient line, if you know what I mean? So in whatever the lineage that I have, there is Native American, Cherokee, and something up around Virginia. I'm not sure, but anyway, supposed to be the Northern Cherokee. And so great grandmother, grandmother, and uh, great and grandmother. So with that said, I can kind of say, well, my lineage is sort of close into here. Now, where it came from before that, who knows? But other folks are, they don't really know where their lineage really comes from and who sort of infiltrated the family lineage there or the bloodline. And it could simply not have anything to do with blood, but have to do with the entity you were before you took physical shape. So, in other words, um, you know, I'm just going to use religious terms for this, just for the sake. So, I was born a Catholic. Well, I agreed to be born a Catholic. Okay, so there's another one that goes, I ain't going to be Catholic. I'm going to be Baptist. Okay, here's a Baptist family over here. Well, now y'all, I'm going to be Buddhist. I want one of them families, but I don't want to go to India. You got any hippies in California? So this idea, though, that maybe we do choose before we take this journey, before we accept um, whatever path we decided to take. I mean, the more that I'm on this path and the more that I just stay open to the universe and go, so I'll have a thought about, well, what about this? Whatever it is. What about faith? What about my own faith? Well, I don't think you could really shake mine too much, because even if some great big entity came in and said, "I am your God, bow down before me," I'd go, "No," because I understand that you're a go-between. I understand that, like a lot of Native Americans at powwows, they will say a Christian prayer every single time, and people, want to call them savages, but they also do a prayer to the Creator, the Great Spirit. And so, what better way to explain who God is the Great Spirit? It ain't a person; it's a spirit. It's written right there. Who is the? It's the Great Spirit. It's the Creator. But is some guide person? Nah, it's the Creator. No gender. Now it's often referred to as he, but creator is just creator. And those folks in the native tribes that I have been with, they don't put gender in with creator or source. It's not inferred in any way. It's creator. It's not, feminine energy. It's not divine, nope, it's creator and it's source, you know, um, it's great spirit. Now, in that, there are the grandfathers and the grandmothers So there are both male and female energies in the universe, and referred to those spirits who, like the Chinese and some Japanese and them folks over there, and the Mexicans too. They give a lot of tradition to their dead and a lot of honor and respect to the dead. And in that, they say, thank you, grandma, for having my dad, and my dad, then had me. And thank you, to those lineages before me that put me here. Now it's what I intend to do with this. So some people will go, well, what the F difference does it make? It's up to you. So you look inside yourself and go, well, what do I want to make out of this journey? Well, what we thought we were going to do a year ago and what we've been doing here lately is totally different. But again, what is the consistent thing? And like Brian and I discussed many times, the consistent thing is that we still stay on our spiritual path. We still are headed, we hope, in the right direction. We're still trying to stay in the light. We're still trying to be the frequency that we wish to receive. We still want to, help when possible. We still understand what it means to be of value to ourselves so that we can be of value to others, you know, simply by being. And that simple understanding is a calming effect in the universe, especially to the chaos that's with us now. So, if there's ever a time to have faith, and it's very simple, there's good energy out there and there's bad energy. And depending on which side of that fence you were born, you might be born on the side that we consider bad energy. Now, what? And this is the understanding that we have to get in the universe. We must accept and respect, not necessarily honor, but we have to respect that there are those entities out there, and from their point of view, they're right, and we're the ones that are wrong. But you say, but listen, dude or dudette or spirit, look, we want to do good things. And I go, good things, the hell with that. I want to burn, I want to burn the earth to a crisp. I think you humans have, defecated long enough on this planet, and half of you need to go. Adios. Bzzz, and there we go. And you see, that's what we have to understand. What some of this Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030 is a population reduction. They absolutely want this to happen. They have been engineering it because their point of view is not human, okay? In that another human wouldn't go, wait a minute, so there's a bunch of us here. We just need to learn to get along, right? When then there is those that are going, no, there's too many trash folks here. There's too many people that are homeless, too many old folks. There's too many people that aren't worth anything. They're a drag on society and a drag on the resources of the earth. And they just need to go so we can get a clean start. That's how they feel because it's, they see disease in their animal population. I dislike using this word sheeple, but it's true in that we still follow along. So many folks are still following along like sheep. And so, but with that said, if we lift our head up and go, holy crap, it's wolves up there in dogs' clothing, we're headed for the corral. They're going to eat us, hang on. But if we keep our head down and just go along with things. So, but regardless of what happens, I mean, in my lifetime, I was worried about Johnson after Kennedy got shot. And their dark journalist had a couple of really good programs on update information about JFK and the assassination and Lee Harvey Oswald and the connection to the alien connection that JFK was going to probably already had the conversation with Nikita Khrushchev because The Russians had pamphlets about aliens back in the late 40s and early 50s, the little alien handbook kind of thing. And so the Russians have known for a long time. And so JFK and Nikita Khrushchev were going to have that discussion, right? Like Reagan and Putin back in, I'm sorry, Gorbachev. Yeah, Gorbachev. But anyway, so which puts a really strange twist on that the CIA and that stuff didn't want it to come out. That ooh, that would have been there. That's why some folks thought he was committing treason, JFK, that is. But anyway, but in this grand scheme of things, there is so much other stuff going on that we honestly don't have any control over. But we can always keep control of ourselves, you know. 5 minutes to lose your brains, and then you got to brain it back and go, okay, I had my rant for 5 minutes, maybe 10 if it's a really bad rant. But you have to be able to stop yourself and go, okay, now that's enough. You know, let me let myself, balance back out and become the camp. For me, it's the camp counselor. Let's be level headed about this. We can't lean too far one way or the other. It keeps us all out of balance. So, but the thing that keeps us in balance is our faith. The universe is going to be there one way or the other. If the planet were destroyed, I'm not wishing any of this. I'm just saying, in this eve of destruction and Armageddon and the biblical, things playing out and all, and you got to look at it and go, this has been their game plan all along. Okay. They keep admitting it, they keep telling us what they're going to do. Um, so how do we survive this? We keep aware. We keep our wits about us. And, if I happen to live in a city back in the, during the World War II, I was watching uh, the World War II in color about the war in the Pacific, because I was interested in that back when I was growing up, in that I just thought PT boats was the bomb, and the way the Navy and everything. My pops was in the Navy. So, but anyway, and my brother went in the Navy and so did my granddaughter. But anyway, um, but in that, it was like, they bombed villages because, well, like they did in Vietnam. Well, there's gooks in there. Good ones, bad ones, don't care. Granny, the kids, the neighbors, boom, they're all dead. And it's like, so there were people sitting in their rice paddies, just minding their own business when these bombers came overhead and bombed them to smithereens and put them and killed them all. So they were not expecting that. So, let's hope that's not what's happening to us. But in that extreme, right, what matters most? We must, like Jesus said, let's use him as the example for those Christians among us. And it doesn't matter if you're not, it's okay. But in the idea that, most of the Bible's just like, forget about it. But the idea of the Christ consciousness that was was here, has been here, and several times after that and before that. I mean, it's a reincarnation, sort of like the Dalai Lama is a reincarnation. Okay. And folks go, well, that's not possible. Hang on. These guys go back and pick out items that belong to them on a table with a bunch of other stuff. And they pick up a bell, or they pick up a thing, they pick up a bracelet or something. They know what they've had previously. And that's how they prove whether or not these guys are reincarnations, right? And so, 9 out of 10 objects, and they go, well, that's pretty much it. He forgot one over there in the corner, but he's a kid, right? So, but in this understanding, though, that if we are the reincarnation of another entity, a previous life here, and for me, I was a real dick when in a previous life. Yucko, I have to be here to fix that, right? So, and it's not necessarily, one could call it the karma, but I'm learning that karma is just sort of a state of mind. And it's sort of that, I created a negative energy. Okay, that's karma. But I created a negative void. And as part of my journey, I had to learn what it was like to be an Indian because I was an Indian killer, a basher, not a good person. And so I had to come back and learn it from this side. Now, I haven't been abused or anything from, from what I can prove of my Native American heritage, but I did get thrown out by the Native Americans because I'm white. And so I had to prove my spirit to them by my actions and by my words. And I was accepted then through these many powwows that I was traveling to. And um, the idea that it's not your blood that makes you a part of the tribe. And I talked about this yesterday in that family ain't necessarily blood. So in our soul tribe here, in this group, in the band of like-minded beings, doesn't matter what color we are, doesn't matter what our background is, because we're all spiritual beings and we all connect here. So that's what's important, right? So the more we understand that simple, basic connection, we can still read about this. And, again, I'm not saying that we should just close ourselves off to any readings of anything. But if you're pursuing a religion to become spiritual, or if you're pursuing a particular thing to try that spirituality, understand you already got it. That's it. You have to start right there. So, as a young shaman in training would look up at the master and go, "What do you mean, grandfather?" And as old as I am now, I am a grandfather, but the answer is back. It's very simple. You believe and have faith that it does exist, and the universe will show itself to you. You might ask a question and be looking up at the stars and a meteor, does something go by and you go, wow, or whatever. Or you go and do a campfire and like for me, I've been out on the river, I haven't been lately, time to go. We're supposed to get a lot of heavy rain here this next couple of days and get to 29 degrees, which is chilly for us down here. So we're gonna get a hard freeze here by Wednesday night. So gonna have to button up the old overcoat, and glad I started moving the wood. Anyway, so it's nice to get a warning. But in this grand scheme of things in the universe, so the teaching is the basic. The grasshopper has just as much value as you do. What? Yep, the frog has as much value as the grasshopper. If there weren't frogs, there'd be too many grasshoppers. So, in that, they both have value to the nature of things. Now, with that said, though, I have thought about the idea of spiders and spider webs and stuff, and where I've seen them out in the yards and the woods, they're everywhere. And I go, well, wait a minute, there's a bunch of them, but in ways, birds will, peck at the ground, and what are they eating? They're eating some of the spiders and the other bugs that live in the undergrowth. That's why you should never cut your grass too low. But you always, you have in grass, there's this undergrowth of stuff, unless you poisoned it. But in my field and in other fields too, the idea is though, and in forestry and that type of thing, you want to make sure that you never cut the grass too low so that the understory of grass and beetles and ants and stuff they still got a decent place to live down there, and for the little creatures too. But the idea though is, and it helps keep the moisture in the ground, it is just better landscaping. But anyway, and I've argued with people about that over years lots, but my My field proves it to me that I'm right about that. But anyway, lots of activity. So, in this connection of all things, we start with the basics and go, but now can you believe that? Well, I don't know. And a lot of people can't swallow that. Well, what about Jesus? We're talking about spiritualism and understanding the nature of things. Well, the Bible says, put it down. This is a lesson about nature, not about a book. No religion, no overtones. Let's just talk nature. That's all. And what can you see? What can you feel? What do you feel when you see that, that black wasp carry that giant caterpillar off? How do you see that? What do you think about that? How do you feel a connection to that? What is your connection to that, to the worm and to the wasp? Well, grandfather, we shoot, antelope for to feed the families, and that's right, but we give honor to the antelope before we kill them, and thank Great Spirit for the antelope. And in that, now, grandfather, the young one asked, does the wasp say a prayer? Does the wasp honor the caterpillar? Well, young one, says grandfather, they coexist with the creator, and the worm knows that it can get caught by a wasp, and a wasp knows that it can't take all of them. So they both know, like rabbit knows that one of these days hawk might get him, or eagle might get him, or a cat might get him, mountain lion, or a bobcat. So these things exist, but in that knowledge, they all know they're part of the great creator of the universe, regardless. So we're aware of the bears, So for me to have that visit from that big black bear down on the Buffalo River, um, I many times I've thought back on that and go, it was spiritual then, and as the days go on, and I remember that feeling of having to bear that close, and that I wasn't scared, terrified, or nothing. I was like, bear came down the mountain just to say hi to me. Holy shit. So because I was on the quest to learn those things. That was one reason for going on that 2-day journey on the river to camp overnight, um, and to experience, no lights, no sound, no, and to be there and to have a bear come up and, but here's the other thing too. I realized I left out in that bear story. We had had a Reese's peanut butter cup before we went to bed. So not having thought about it, wash it down with a little water or something, all the paper was put up, but I had peanut butter chocolate breath. So why did that bear come down that mountain? I was probably breathing out Reese's peanut butter cup. And that bear was like, some bitch, there's a redneck down there on the river that's been eating peanut butter. Let's go see if I can get me some. And then realized it was some white boy in a tent, and crap, there ain't nothing here, and moseyed on. But to the point though, it's like I think the bear would have come down the mountain anyway. But I thought about them Reese's cups, and I thought, maybe next time if I'm out in the wilderness, like I won't do that. You know what I mean? It's like, okay. So, but or any other critters as far as that goes. But so with this understanding of the nature of things, so we must stay basic, because all things will come back to these basic things. Well, what about religion? Well, what about it? If you want to be religious, go ahead. But if you want to be spiritual, truly spiritual, then you should understand that all things great and small are equal in the eyes of the Creator. We all have a value. Ants have values. Now, I have yet to see values for termites for eating my house a couple of times and trying to eat my shed. They actually are eating parts of the shed, but um, I got new wood pressure treated. But anyway, the idea though that why is a platypus look like that? Anyway, and what's the deal with the hammerhead shark? With these eyes out here on the sides, for whatever reason or purpose or whatever, there was a plan in that. Could have been a hiccup at the gene pool, but for whatever reason, everything has its purpose, whether we understand it or not. Religious or whatever, philosophically, doesn't matter. Well, I'm an atheist. Go right ahead, because I don't believe in a God either. What? No, I believe in the creator. I believe in source energy. I believe in the energy of the universe. Well, that sounds like hogwash. Well, yeah, but have you seen some of these science programs lately? When the energy is out there, they take pictures of it, with time lapse photography. It's out there. It does connect us all. So, wait a minute. Now, if there's scientific proof of some of this stuff, uh, oh, you know. So you don't have to talk about God. You don't have to talk about anything like that. You don't have to talk about a religion to be able to get an atheist to understand source energy in the universe. So we can all get that regardless of our color, creed, background, etc. So that's what we should continue to focus on, no matter how bad it gets. And we're going to want to bang our head against the wall and go, what the hell are they doing to us next? Let's try to have a little restraint, because hitting ourselves in the head is, as I know, Travis says, um, the image of Christ on my Catholic Bible looks just like an Indian chief, headdress and all. Yes. Yeah. I had an old Catholic Bible too, but I had to pass it on. My family is good to everyone as a whole, not thieves or backstabbers. Yeah, the white ones are back with vengeance. Yep. Este, I know, Dave, I have a good living landscape. My neighbors complain, but I know it's the best for nature. Yes, it is. Yes, Isby. I love the feeling of grass on my toes. Well, in some places there are sand spurs, and not like down in Florida, but um, I took forestry back in the 70s. And growing up in Florida, we used to go out to the forestry departments, being a Cub Scout and a Boy Scout and all that kind of stuff. I wasn't interested in becoming an Eagle Scout. I was interested in going into the swamps and just camping. Well, what about a merit badge? What am I going to do with that merit badge? Well, you need to learn how to do this. Okay, so we learned how to tie this. We learned how to do that. We learned all the stuff we needed to learn, but none of us were interested in the badge part of it, because you had to fill out of this. You had to go pass a test, and we were all, screw that. I'll learn how to tie these knots, but I don't care whether I got a badge for it or not. Anyway. So lots of stuff I knew. Just well, you made it to first class yet. Why didn't you try to get try for Eagle Scout? Not interested. Like I said, was more interested in the camping part and being in there. So anyway, in watching nature and understanding forestry, and then actually taking a forestry um, um, course. Back then it was a correspondence course. Now it's online. So, but anyway, I took 2 years and had all the books and studies and everything. And I had friends here in South Georgia, because I when I moved up here, that's what I did. I wanted a lot of forests, a lot of trees, a lot of, this and that. So I figured I could get a job in the industry if I knew enough about forestry. Well, what it ended up being, that I bought this 18 and a half acres that had nothing on it. You know, it was a blank open field. Back in the back and behind, the pine trees were sold, and there were some big ones. The pine trees were sold before I bought the property. So they had X amount of time to get the pine trees out. But when they got done taking the pine trees out, it looked like Vietnam back there. I mean, there was almost nothing standing all the way to the river. There's some patches of oak and hardwood where it's real swampy and the pines won't grow. But everywhere else, I mean, you know, they were driving trucks through there. It was murdered, you know, I mean, everything. And I had pitcher plants right behind the house with all their traffic and everything they did. They wiped out the large patch of pitcher plants that are on the, you know, extinction level kind of thing, endangered species. But anyway, so but now the trees have had almost 30, they've had 35 years of growth. And some of them trees are pretty big. I can't put my arm around them, you know. And, you know, 35 years are that big. Yeah. Wait another 10 or 15 or 20 years or never, you know. There are trees down on my river that two people can't put your arms around these things. I've been here 35 years, and those trees were 100 years old when I moved here. So they're way big. They're the old longleaf yellow pine. They're on the endangered species list. So, but anyway, but with understanding nature of things and forestry and how things move, you know, forestry isn't just about the understudy, uh, um, underbrush and stuff. My next door neighbor, this is how important it is. My next door neighbor planted trees, okay, in rows and the whole 9 yards, forestry department. Now they burn it every year, they mow it, and it looks like a lawn for like, there's 8 acres of lawn, okay, that are pine trees. Now, across the fence in my driveway are the pine trees that I planted, maybe 10 pine trees. The rest of the pine trees on my place um, were all came up from other pine trees in the neighborhood. They volunteers. So the pine trees that I have on my property, many of them are a lot bigger than the cultivated pines 30 feet away. And I was, when me and my friend was down there yesterday, I said, now you look at these over here and you look at those over there. And he goes, what's the difference? And I said, which is bigger? He said, well, that one's bigger. I said, but they were planted almost within a year or so of each other. They came up at the same time. What's the difference? The difference is that I've got, there's bushes underneath, there are little oak trees coming up. I burn it, but I don't burn everything out and try to mow it. So what I've learned that the pine trees in nature, the natural order of things is that little saplings come up, then the pines come up. The pines come up and throw shade, so the oak trees and the cherry trees and the hardwoods come up. And then when they come up, the pines die, and that's how the forest changes. And then when the oak go, and there's an open field. It's the natural order of things is for that to happen. So, but what I didn't, and there's a lot of planted forest around here, but I've got a direct relationship. The pine trees do better when they got when they got stuff growing under them, not just grass. Now, up here on the hill, there's a couple of places that the pine straw is so thick, I really need to burn it. But I don't want to burn all the understory from it because they're doing really well, you know, and to the point where they're in a couple of places they're really too close and need a little thinning out. But hey, as long as they're growing, I ain't messing with them. And that was my promise when I bought this property. I said, as long as I'm alive, I'm not gonna, unless it's I must, I'm not gonna sell any of the trees off here, you know. Now, whoever comes after me, I wanted a 5-year moratorium after I pass away before you take any trees. And then I want you all to do it kindly. But anyway, but the energy of what I wanted to instill here, and the trees are happier, they're bigger. I mean, there's one tree I honestly can't put my arm around, you know, and I tried because they put a cable around it and tied off a cable and did one of those, hang on and, uh, we called them a slide for your life, but anyway, you know what I mean. So the cable thing, but I couldn't put my arms around it. Now, it was planted, it was a volunteer, but it came up after my neighbor planted his pine trees. And I can't find a pine tree anywhere near on his property that looks as big as the one that it's 50 feet away from his trees. And so that's the connection of all things, is the reason I'm telling this story. We think it doesn't matter. Well, what's the difference if I cut the grass a little closer? Because if you understood what's going on these little micro levels, it's just like folks don't really understand what's going on in a forest. What happened in California is a tragedy, but it's their flipping fault, the forestry departments. Those people should be shot, or whatever, but at least throw it out of the business for not doing their correct job, because down here it is a natural thing to burn once a year. The aboriginals knew. Out on the plains they knew. Now they tried not to start a wildfire, but you can start a little grass fire, and with a puff of wind, you've got a fire line that's a mile wide in just a few minutes, and you go, what happened? And Mother Nature will do that, especially with a spark. But in all those things, though, the grass always comes back. There's that, it's necessary to do that sometimes, or the grasses get stagnated, but anyway, but so to the point of this, even destruction is necessary for the regrowth of things. But I don't want some other higher being, a spaceship or something, trying to tell me, listen, there's too many of you all down there on that planet, and half of you ain't worth a damn. So we're just going to take care of the problem. Hang on. Whoa, wait a minute. I don't get a say in this, but hey, Maverick, how are you? So blessings to y'all. But anyway, with this idea, though, what matters in the end? What matters is the end is we understand our spirit, we keep our soul together, we don't sell off to the other guy, and we stick to our guns as much as possible. Now, to the point where, I'm going to go down fighting if they want to, hit me with something and go, ooh, this is for the thing. I'm going to say no as long as I possibly can, to the point of, well, you're going to have to hold me down, right? So, but other people, they might not be able to do that. They might have to make a decision right away and go, oh, shit. We could fight this, we could do that, and you could go home, and but, oh, crap. So, and their folks are going to have to make that decision. Let's make sure that we keep our prayers open, that whatever stance they have to take, and if they do have to take whatever to go to work or, continue on with their life to provide or whatever, then that's a sad choice. And if for some reason, it's has a bad effect, well, that's even worse. But even if that's the situation for some people, the bottom line always still exists. We're still spirit beings. We're still part of the great creator. We're still a part of the source. We're still, and that's what matters in the end, regardless. So, but anyway, that's enough preaching for this Saturday morning early. Hey, Cherry, how are you? What y'all up to? You have a Esty says I have hickory and a ginkgo biloba. Pine pollen is good for our health. Not everybody, but yeah. Um, for me now, here's something. Um, and I've got some old stumps back there in the swamp there where they put cat claws on them. In other words, they turpentined the trees. So they would put hash marks down the trees and then put a tin cup and nail it with little tacks to the side with a piece of wire, and the sap would run out, which is what they make turpentine out of. So one thing that I have done and probably need to do it again is I'll go find me a pine. I'll go find a pine tree that's oozing some sap and dig in there and get me some fresh sap and just eat it. And you go, what? Yes. Now, they used to sell turpentine in the pharmacies. Okay. You might still be able to do so, depending on where you live and et cetera, and the new rules that are going around. But that uh, my son's grandfather took a little bit of turpentine and with a little bit of water and drank it, a couple of times a week. He'd go, Bernice, get me my turpentine, because he was an old gentleman and a sharecropper back in the day. So um, a little bit in the spoon, and he'd dip it in there. Now, turpentine, that kind of turpentine was sold at the pharmacy in little bottles, not the same that you get from the store kind of thing. So, don't go there. But what it boils down to, and I was even looking into with all the pine trees that I have and the wounds, the natural wounds that are already on some of these, I should collect pine sap and make my own homemade turpentine, right? Anyway, too many other things I'm trying to clear up. But if I ever get my place cleaned up enough to where I can do that, then I will probably do that. Because it doesn't matter what time of the year you can go around and collect this stuff, and because it never gets old, it stays pine tar always. But anyway, and you just heat it up and boil it down and treat it and sift it and all that. But anyway, but to the point though, you can just go out and get you some pine tar, and it tastes like pine tar. It's like it's really tasty. But I can every time I go out and have a little bit. I used to have a little blob around, and I probably tossed it out, wondering what's this blob for, and it's tar. But sap. So, but with that though, it's it hasn't killed me yet, kind of thing. And he lived to be 92, so it didn't kill him either. Um, It was real tasty. Wait, oh, I got a surprise yesterday. Was on my way back from picking up some weed. Found a doobie on the way home. Maverick, I was with a friend of mine up in the North Georgia mountains, up in the Chattahoochee National Forest. And I mean, we was up there in the middle up there, near Hiawassee and that area up in there. But anyway, we didn't have anything, and went up there and we were like, tried to find something before we went on the trip and all this, didn't know anybody up there. And we were sort of jonesing, but went to the mountains anyway and had a good time. So found this camp spot, and I was like, well, why don't we go over there? And I was like, no, I want to, it was one of those things that Spirit said, come over here. Right. So I went up this little trail and really bumpy and steep and got to this spot, and we parked. And it was an old forest road that was blocked off just about, 100 feet in front of us, ahead of us anyway. And so we pulled over and got out, and it's nighttime, and I looked down, and there's like 3/4 of this joint laying there on the ground. It looked like a cigarette. And I was like, oh, somebody threw their cigarette out. And I went, wait a minute, that's not a cigarette. And I bent down, and oh my God, it was this really nice joint of some weed. That was one time in the North Georgia mountains. Was coming back from Tullahoma one time, doing a puppet show with a friend of mine, and we were on Sundays on the trip home from ventures like that was always sort of let's take a different way instead of just going the interstate. We'd go through the mountains and through some little town. We'd go look for some kind of sightseeing thing or whatever, you know. So anyway, we found this spot, and it would coming out of Tennessee into North Georgia, and um, anyway, we're trying to think of the name of that mountain. But anyway, we were coming down this. It's a big mountain there when you're going up 24 towards Nashville. You know, you climb up the thing and then you climb back down the thing, and it's kind of flat on either side. Anyway, north of Chattanooga. But anyway, we were taking the back roads and we came to this spot, and it was an overlook, right? And I mean, beautiful little 2-lane highway, really windy, just, you know, but oh, the scenery was gorgeous. Man, oh man. So driving my truck, well, all loaded with all our puppet stuff and everything, you know, and Tim and I both were like, man, we really wish we had a joint for this because it was so pretty, right? So we pull over this overlook area. Some other people get out and we're chatting and having a good time and everything. And we're all leaning up on the rail, looking down at the overlook, you know, and right below us, about 20 feet, was another little ledge, and then it dropped off the mountain some more. But, oh, that was the vista. So the couple, they left, and Tim bumps me and he goes, you think we can get down there? And I was like, well, why? And he goes, is that what I think it is? People would stand up there at the rail and smoke. And if somebody came up, they would throw them over the side. So we went down there and found 2 or 3, you know, half joints down there of some really good weed. And we just looked up at the sky and said, thank you, Spirit. Thank you. You know, out in the middle of nowhere on the side of this mountain, we're finding, you know, little doobie joints out there going, holy man, you know, nobody would believe this, but it's okay, you know. So even in the wilderness, there are times. Was in Arkansas, headed to down this windy trail along Panther Creek. I think we were heading for Indian Roundhouse, which if you ever get to Arkansas and near that area, you should definitely check it out. But anyway, I'm going down this trail and there's this little switchback. It's a switchback like this. So you come down the hill, switches back and goes this way. Well, the trail kept going a little ways, and I was looking at formations. Missed that skeeter again. You won't be flying around here when it gets to 29. But anyway, so I look over there on the side, and I'm looking at the side of the hills for cave entrances because they're all over the place there, right? So I'm looking and I go, wait a minute, what's that? And I take 2 steps forward. Now, for whatever reason, there was a $20 bill on this trail. I mean, just 5 steps off of the trail. Somebody must have got out a fanny pack or something, $20. And it was just folded in half, just laying there. And I was like, looked around, anybody over there? There was nobody on the trail, but I kept looking like this is a joke, right? Because as kids, we used to throw a wallet out in the street and have a fish line tied to it. And if somebody stopped at the stop sign and opened it up to get it out, we'd be hiding in the bushes and pull the, you know, like the little rascals, right? But anyway, so I was waiting for somebody to jump out of the bushes and claim this $20. And I was like, never mind. So I bent down, picked it up and, you know, stuck it in my pocket. And my wife turned around to me, the same one that was screamed about the bear, turned around to me, where'd you get that? And I said, it was laying here on the trail. No, it wasn't. And I said, where do you think I got it? You pulled it out of your pocket. She was nuts about that. I'd tell her the truth until I was blue in the face. Then I'd have to tell a lie and she'd believe that. Nutty. She was weird. But anyway, I was like, no, I found this $20 out here, you know, at least a mile and a half from anything out here in the, you know, the Ozarks, you know, along this trail on the side of the mountain. And there's a $20 bill. I'm like, yep. Okay. So the strangest things can happen. I didn't need the $20. I think I gave it away or gave it as a tip or something. Because at the time I was making good money and I really didn't need it. I kept it. I mean, you know, but it was, you know, I've been poor and found some money. That's why they called me Hawkeye back in the days with the carnival. I could spot money that fall out, like that underneath the Tilda Whirl, or we used to run the Rocco plane. One of these nights, I'm going to just tell Carney stories. Oh God. But you know, you could hear the change fall out of people's pockets, and you'd warn them, say, "Look, you might want to give that to somebody, or turn your pocket inside out. Put your hand in your pocket if you can, and flip your pocket. So your stuff won't fall out, or Oh no, I'm all right. I'm all right. Okay, all right. So later on, when you shake their wallet and all the change, you know, and me and my brother, we could go, that was a nickel, that was a quarter, that was a penny, and never mind. You could hear it hit the inside, and the sound it made inside the tub while the ride was running. And then you could hear this tink tonk tonk where it would hit the mud sills holding up the ride. And you could just about follow them with your ear. Even though the ride's running, people screaming, everything, you could tune your ears in to hear where the money fell. And later on, when the show was over, you go down and go through the grass, and you know, um, your ride was your ride, and nobody was supposed to be able to come and take your shakes. Okay, so on the scrambler, you never got a shake, but on the Rocco plane, ooh, there's money in that one. Not so much the octopus. The tilt, you had to wait until you tore the ride down to get under it because things went underneath the bull plates. But anyway, everything's connected. I've had a colorful life, eh? But you get a Z for 140 to 160. Yeah. And I gotta say, is B, I agree with you. It's on the price on that one. Um, that what some people are getting for the price that I pay, it's not anywhere near the quality. So somebody says, "You're paying that much?" Yeah, but here, try some. Oh crap, can I get some of that? Sorry, private stock. And it's one of them things that I no can't talk about it. But back in the day when I smoked a lot, back in the days when it was $20 for a four-finger bag, nobody waited. It was a four-finger bag, but you could tell, you know what I mean? And back then it was very rare. We would get some Hawaiian in once in a while. Now, because I lived in Tampa and MacDill Air Force Base, we used to get a lot of Vietnamese type weed and stuff from India. And we got a lot of dirt weed too. Oh my God, it was horrible. Give you more of a headache than anything. But as the 60s came around, um, them hippies that were taking agricultural things at the colleges, like where the Gators are in Gainesville, um, you know, University of Florida. That's where I used to buy 3 pounds. It was $90 a pound. 3 pounds. That was you had to buy a minimum, and it was all squashed up and stuff. And they at the time it was called Gainesville Green, and it was like hybrid because they were growing it in greenhouses and using new techniques. Now that was in the middle 70s, but take a ride down to Gainesville one evening, pick it up, come back that night, and next day we'd all have a separation party. So there was always several of us going in, but $90 for this. And back then we knew what we had, but nowadays people are like, well, that's just common. It wasn't back then. I had friends of mine they're all dead now. But when we grew weed back in the day, we had El Primo weed, and that people now, I mean, we had one particular strain that was bubblegum, and we didn't know about the cloning techniques. We were just growing it, right? And using growing techniques without the cloning. But we were using lights. We were doing lights on interior things way before a lot of people, because we didn't tell anybody what we were doing. We had this small little club, if you will, of growers, and we would sit together and sample each other's weeds. We would, trade seeds out, and we had these seeds that were really plump and sort of darkish brownish, a little bit of gray, and had black lines in it. We called it tiger. We called it tiger weed, and we would strain it with some indica that we would get, and we would trade people for seeds. Look, I'll give you some weed if you give me some seeds. Well, I got all the seeds you want. So, but anyway, we had plenty of plants. At one time, I had 30 plants growing at one time that were, like 4 foot tall and really bushy and nothing but buds. Oh my God, you know, back in the 80s. But, I don't do that anymore. They know where I live. But let me tell you, if they ever make it legal, I've got all the stuff I need to go right back into it, except seeds. But anyway, but the idea though that, something like that is so easy to do. And, back then I was, because I had trouble. I had an operation with my neck, so I was growing weed and trading it for food. I mean, at gas money kind of thing, and I couldn't work because my neck operation, being in a SOMI brace. Anyway, so but yeah, it got me through some hard times, both smoking wise and other. But yeah, uh, I couldn't afford it for a long time, so that's why I grew it. And only certain people knew that I was growing it. And there are people that have asked me, "Well, you grow some now, don't you, Dave?" And I go, "No." Well, why not? I mean, you live out there in the country, and I'm like, "Listen, I am so paranoid because of gotten. I mean, they busted me here already with a helicopter years ago. I'm sorry, it's not worth it. For whatever reason, they have no reason to come down here. But just my luck, if I grew one flipping plant somewhere, they'd find that some bitch and take me to jail. And I'm just not going to do it. I sleep at night. Well, what about? Well, don't you possess some? Well, if I'm going to smoke it, obviously I'm possessing some, but it's not the same as growing. Trust me. I got actually I got out of, people say I turned a dime, but actually the guys looked at me and were like, "Man, we pity you. We're not going to charge you with growing. We're just going to charge you with possession of marijuana for over an ounce." And they did not charge me for the growing part of it because they were so freaking embarrassed that they got little over an ounce of weed out of these plants growing, that they had this $1,000 an hour or more helicopter with a guy with a rifle that is, and a sniper hovering over me to keep me from running. And, GBI agents busting through the weeds with guns drawn. I mean, this has really happened. And the governor said, "Shut up. Don't say another word about this. Whatever that guy does down there in Moultrie, we ain't saying another word about, well, we caught this guy red-handed with growing marijuana in his backyard." But then when it came right down to it, it was an ounce. So they had 4 GBI guys, 3 sheriff deputies, 2 guys in the helicopter, and the cost of the helicopter, hovering over me. Are you kidding? They shut that shit up so quick. They were so embarrassed, right? 6 plants, a little, because it was so dry. I mean, they were barely hanging on. So, but people said, "You must have ratted on somebody." Why? Because they didn't charge you, you got off. And I was like, you don't get it. They were so embarrassed. They didn't want to charge me anything. They were so like, just get this guy out of here. Just Then charge him with something, put him on probation because they knew I had epilepsy, and they had already screwed up when they put me in jail. They lost my medicine and I had a seizure while I was in the jail. And the sheriff said, "You get that motherfucker out of my jail now. I don't care how you do it. You get him out of my jail." And 4 hours later, I was out of the jail and didn't go back to jail. They was like, "We don't want you, but you stay on probation." Well, I'd already been on probation at one time in the county. Um, but so, and I was like, "Guys, I'm not going to run anywhere. I'll be at the house, you know." And some of these sheriff's deputies I knew the lieutenant, and he was like, "Dude, man, you should move to Alaska or something," because that was the only place at the time. "You should move to Alaska or something. We all know you're a hippie. We all know. And it was like, oh, they all know. Well, they didn't know how much weed had grown or how much I had sort of trafficked in and out by handling it from somebody you knew to somebody else that I knew with a little bit of pinch in between. Holy crap. I'd still be in jail for that shit. But anyway, I did some serious, I guess compared to most folks, I guess I did a fair amount of drug dealing, but it was mostly marijuana. And it was mostly, hey, I got two buddies and we all want some. So, you buy in, if you could buy into a quarter pound, for example. I knew four of us who wanted to buy an ounce each, right? So, of course, it was cheaper to buy a quarter if you could find it. So that's what we did. And so, in that quote, drug dealing, it was mostly that. Or I would buy enough, if somebody would buy in halves. So 2 ounces for you and 2 ounces for me, we'd buy a quarter. And then, if we made a little off of it or whatever, okay, because of the cutting price we got, right? But back in them days, it was only 20 or 30 bucks for a big old damn bag of weed. Now you're paying two. There's one particular brand I saw was going for $4.50 an ounce. And I was like, I remember paying that back a few years back when the Tallahassee two toke was all the rage. And there's still some growers, I'll just say down here in the South. And sometimes these hybrids will hit the market and you go, "Where'd you get that from?" Don't ask. Um, because folks are using old tobacco barns and they're using old this and that and places and closets. I mean, we grew some really good weed in the closet, but to the point, um, it's still against the law here in Georgia to grow any. But I understand that I think Florida now has passed theirs, at least for possession or something. But anyway, if they decriminalized it, oh my God. But I, Georgia was one of the few states that imposed a less than an ounce rule. So if it's less than an ounce, it's a continuing misdemeanor. 1 point over an ounce, and it's a felony. And so, in that's one reason why I stayed in Georgia because back then, there weren't any states that would allow you. If you get busted, well, I don't want to, but if I do in the state of Georgia and it's only a couple of joints, it's a misdemeanor. You still got to pay a fine. You got to do this, blah blah blah. It's bullshit, but you're not going to jail. You're not going to the feds. So anyway. So that's one reason why I stayed here in Georgia. Plus the climate, like right now, it's been beautiful. It's going to rain. It rained earlier, and it's going to rain probably tomorrow night. And wait, this is Saturday now. So tomorrow it's going to rain tomorrow and into Monday, and then it's going to get colder than snot for us down here. So I imagine you folks up north probably is, but you probably up where you're at, it's probably getting cold. But 29 is chilly for us down here. Hey, Ian, how are you? And Barry, Well, here's the thing is, B, about the everybody would be growing it thing. Back in the day when we had our little consortium, there were four of us that we each had our own little grow systems and we compared notes and sometimes we visited the other persons. But anyway, we were very much into secrecy and hiding stuff and, and we got away with it for a couple of years. But anyway, um, what we did was we didn't want to make money out of it because we felt if even if we could trade, but if we sold any of it, that would lead it to be us being busted. But if we gave it away, I don't know where the guy said, well, a friend of mine gave it to me. Well, but if you sell it, and you know what I mean? So it was our philosophy that if we had a little extra and a friend needed some, that we'd smoke some with them or maybe let them have a joint. But, we were not in the business to sell it. Now, me and my friend Hoyt, that's been dead for quite a few years now, but we'd be sitting on a half a pound of weed from the plants that we were cultivating from, and snips here, and I mean buds, for back then that people looked at it and went, "Where'd you get this?" Well, just don't ask. Now everybody's got that kind of stuff, but we were, I am bragging in that we were ahead of our time for down here. But it wasn't for, overall consumption, but we traded amongst us. So my point to that is, but think about this, for the amount of money that we spend on weed to be able to grow our own, hang on a minute, then that's money I don't have to spend. So, I don't have to sell any. I get to save it by growing my own. That was how I looked at it back then. So I'd much rather barter with someone. Somebody say, "Hey, man, I brought you a plate over. You got a joint?" Yeah, yeah, I got one. I'll share it with you. They'd bring me food. Back then when I drank, they'd bring me a 6 pack. I wouldn't take any money. Now there is this plaque on the wall that is a son with hands. And what the tradition was, we used to play poker here a lot on the weekends and used to do a lot of stuff here anyway. But so we'd be playing poker, and the deal was everybody had to, and the people who played poker said, "Look, these are helping hands." And I was broke at the time and in a neck brace, no income, no disability, and starving. So they would all put a little bit of change in they called them the helping hands. So, and there's still money in those hands over there hanging on the wall, because it's like as long as those hands had money in it, I would always not necessarily be rich, but I would always have money. Even if it was only enough to buy a soda. The point is that I would not ever be broke, completely broke. There's the helping hands had money anyway. So, and over the years I've taken from it, but then other money has appeared in it. It was really strange. So if they came over and brought me something, I'd always say, "Well, there is the helping hands," but I wouldn't take the money. Yeah, they could leave it, sort of in the poor box on the way out of church or something. But well, here's 20 bucks. Nah, no, no, no. And I wouldn't ever give anybody that much anyway. One or two joints. But the thing is that I would give it to them. Or if I didn't have enough, there were times when that did occur. I'd go, "I don't have any, but I'll smoke one with you." That's what I got. And I almost got busted one time because a friend of mine, a friend of ours in the consortium, and we still think he had something to do with our collective getting busted, because he got thrown in jail and then somehow got out and then came down here one night just out of the blue, like 10:30 at night, on a weekday. And he was like, "Man, you got any weed you can sell me?" And I was like, "You know better than that." "No, no." "Well, I don't have any amount." "Well, I'll smoke one, but no, you ain't carrying nothing up the driveway with you. I know you've been in jail." "No, uh-uh." You come out here to my house? And I found out later on, yep, he came out there. He was trying to get something on somebody to get his ass out of going to jail because he was selling it all over town. We kept telling him, you're gonna get caught, and he did. But he tried to drag us into it. But because of his connection and him hanging out with us all the time, that put us on the watch list, which eventually did get all three. Well, one person moved away, but the three of us got busted, the rest of the consortium, one way or the other. So we still blame him. Of course, I'm the only one alive now that knows about it. But anyway, but the idea, though, that, I would much rather just trade 57 degrees in Missouri today. I was 58 in August, for not being clear. So, Barry, you're in Missouri? Misery? I get burned out if I smoke any one strain for too long. Yep. That's why we had several different kinds and would crossbreed them, back in the day. Yeah, Maverick, I agree with you. I did it the same too. But, there were other incidents that got me caught. But if they really knew how much I trafficked through here with different friends and where I went north and south and east and west a couple of times, but to get and bring in weed and the transactions, they'd go, you did what? Yeah, I did. But there are a lot of grateful people that didn't have any other access to weed. And so I still consider it a service, but I don't do that anymore, Too paranoid. That's why I went cauliflower when I went some spices. But indoor greenhouse. Yes, I'm working on one on the front porch. In fact, I was going to go outside this morning and do it. And then it started raining. And then I ended up doing this video with y'all, which is okay. Happy birthday, Barry. I didn't know. They say it's your birthday. Da, 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 da. Happy birthday to you now. We tore out ditchweed and planted Colombian everywhere here. Yeah, that's what I heard. When I was in Arkansas years ago, there were these guys that were coming out of the national forest, and they had a U-Haul trailer right behind this car. And there was even a newspaper article in the Mena Gazette or something like that. And we were camped over there at the time. And these guys had been out in the national forest there and collecting weed. And they were so stoned that there was this much hanging out behind, dumb criminals. There was this much of the plants hanging out the close the lid. They were like 10-foot tall plants and an 8-foot trailer. So instead of folding them up, and they drug it behind. So the cops literally were following them, and they were dragging the weed behind this trailer. It was sort of like a Cheech and Chong moment. And this was in the early 70s. My son was born in about 2, so it would have been about 1976-ish. But anyway, and the idea, though, that what? Yeah, I mean, great big piece. There was weed falling off on the sides of the road. It was crazy. But yeah, they say they grow some really good stuff out there. I ran into some folks out in the country, and it was really funny. I won't tell what town it was, but was trying to find a job and everything. And so I go up on this general store, and there's some people, an old couple sitting there in the rocking chair, sort of like Ma and Pa Kettle kind of deal, Snuffy Smith. And nice, polite, and everything. How y'all doing? How you doing? Now, I'm this hippie guy that came from South Georgia, and I go up into the Ozarks, right? And I'm really worried because I didn't take any weed with me, and I'm like, no paraphernalia. These, I don't want to get caught by these folks. Well, come to find out, I'm up there in this place, and I'm sitting. sitting on the front porch waiting for somebody to come back or whatever. I was applying for a job and this and that and the other thing, and I smell weed. And I was like, and the guy looks over and he goes, "Wait, don't you smoke, boy?" And I was like, "Smoke what?" "Oh, come on, you know what we're smoking." And I was like, "Well, it smells pretty good." "Well, you want some?" "Well, I don't have any money." "No, no, we got some here." And I was smoking a regular, a pipe like this with tobacco. And so it was like, "Let me, here, give me your pipe." And I put some in it and I toke up with them. Now, here are these old timers sitting on this front porch, of this general store, and we're smoking weed. And I'm like, um, um, aren't we going to get caught? I mean, the sheriff, he just drove by and he goes, "Well, the sheriff's my brother or my cousin or whatever it was." And he goes, "In this county, more of us smoke weed and drink moonshine, and so we ain't going to rat on the other. And if the sheriff wanted to arrest one of us, he wouldn't be arresting anybody else ever again." And I was like, "Oh, okay." you know. So I was asking him in some of this conversation, I was like, "Well, do you have a lot of theft up here? I mean, you live so far out." And one guy looked at me and he goes, "Now, why would I want to steal something? I know everybody around here." He said some of these new city slickers moving in. Now that was back a ways, but then I said, "So you don't mean?" He goes, "No, we don't worry about it." He said, "Because we know better." And I said, "What you mean?" He goes, "Well, instead of stealing it, I'll just go ask my friend if I can borrow it." He said, "But here's the thing. If you go and steal something from, my neighbor, and I see you with it, I know you didn't buy it, and I know you didn't ask my neighbor, so you must have stole it. So, and you won't steal nothing ever again." I mean, they took care of it, and some of them places out there, they still do. And I was like, he said, "They won't steal again. Whether they whoop them, kill them, whatever, but they ain't gonna steal again." So and basically they were like, "No, we trust each other up here." And I was like, "Holy shit, I want to live here. Oh man, do I want to live up here?" Because that's how we sort of feel in our little pocket down here in South Georgia. Going to Granny's and having turkey dinner yesterday and nobody worrying about a mask. That's a plus. I'm sort of getting a Turkey Day present. it wa- it was an odd bud from a friend of mine. Yummy, yummy. Not much, but just like, here, try some of this. Yeah, one time the quality that I've been able to get over the years recently versus a long time ago. By the end of the month, I got some left. So at the end of 6 months, I got maybe six different kinds. Now there might only be this much of this, or might have a quarter of that one, or it depends on how heavy I smoke, or whether or not I share with someone, which I'll share, but you got to come here. Um, but the idea though that so it's like I get what whoever said it earlier about smoking the same kind all the time. So I have the opportunity through my saving a little here and there every time, where other folks they smoke it to the last. They're dumping that bag out and thumping it, and I'm like, but which to me seems like a lot, but in my smoking habit, I always use a pipe unless somebody comes over and they want a joint, but um, I always use a pipe so I can light it once or twice, get that little, get where I want to be kind of thing. Because being over stoned all the time is it. Even at my age, I could be as stoned as I want to at any time. No, I just want to get that little. get out of pain, kind of get there's that. To me, it's like a three hit if it's decent. So three hits, and I've got that little. Okay, my bones in my neck crack, and my feet. You know, y'all have your own little uh, spots, that you reach. But there are some folks, and I used to be one of them. Um, Smoking a big old doobie, and I used to roll cigarette sized joints back. I mean, literally with a cigarette machine, the old top type that you went like that. And so if anybody saw you smoking, it literally looked like a filterless Camel or something like that, and which was very popular back then. Chesterfields and that, and we'd empty out, especially on the carnival. We'd take, smoke the cigarettes out of a Chesterfield pack, and then roll the joints to look just like them with a paper machine, and then put them back in the Chesterfields pack. So we'd be on a carny ride working in the evenings, and we just had our Chesterfield. So we'd, hey, can I have a Chesterfield? Yeah, okay. Meet at the fence and hand them a cigarette, and they went off and walked around the joint. Walked around the ride, smoking the joint, looking for loose change or whatever, checking the ride, making an excuse, but being outside, nobody ever knew that you were the one smoking the joint because it looked like a Chesterfield. So anyway, yeah, used to do that all the time. you know, oh, the things we used to do. Oh my God, Lucky Strikes, yes, Travis. Um, yeah, and I've got different pipes, and there is that. I've got papers, but I normally use papers to roll my cigarettes with. Quality has been down here. Can't buy as good as I grow. It used to be that way. Lately, no, and I don't have to take the chance. Um, Gisby, that's a shame. Alone in your room. I didn't expect it. I really didn't. I was like, me and the dog were going to have a quiet, Thanksgiving like I normally have, and then I had a chance to go in with the locals. Up in smoke with the hemp van. Yeah, that was funnier than hell. Um, I can't remember which one it was. It was the one where they were growing the weed and they had a tarp over the growing thing that looked like a swimming pool from the air. And the Stacy Keach kept talking to the lizard. And I think at the end of it, he turned into a lizard or something. That one to me, there are times when I just, go to that movie. Maverick, something about head to toe these days used to be just neck and shoulders, but deterioration and disintegration aren't so fun. I don't recommend it. Yeah, if you're talking about bones, I know what that is. I got a scar here. They went in there 3 times and didn't fix it right any time. Nice dreams. Thank you, Barry. And my spine, I fell backwards, you know, across uh, the boards that I was standing on a 2-section um, scaffolding came loose. People said, "Well, you fell from it." I did, but I didn't fall. It wasn't because I fell. It collapsed and I fell. So, but yes, true. I did. I still did fall, but I wasn't the reason I fell anyway. Because I've climbed all kinds of stuff. But anyway, I landed backwards in the X, with my back this way, and so my lower back. That's plus I have um, degenerative disc disease in my lower back, but also, and I'm trying to remember that a little bit of scoliosis because of my football injury, my left leg is shorter than my right. So I got a little bit of a curve in there because of this 60, 55 years of walking a little lopsided, even though I wore, raised heels on my left side, but still, not as bad as it could be, or maybe even should be. But that falling backwards onto the scaffolding crossbar, and me playing frisbee with the grandchildrens yesterday, I'm I paid for it today. It's okay because every time I was like, man, I had a ball. I wouldn't trade that for nothing. Ow, 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 ow. you know. But me and Duggar still went outside and did a little bit. And I was going to do more, but the rain showers come in, and I was going to try to mix concrete. I really want to finish my my porch, um, sunroom slash greenhouse. Really bad. I want to finish it, and I just ain't as young as I used to be. I'm going to get it though. Because I'm bound to determine. I realize that I've gotten a little lazy a couple of for about 10 days. Other things on my mind, and of course I've been cleaning up other areas and doing some other things, but I have stopped doing the front porch, and I need to get back on that. Period. So, but anyway, there's been a lot of information and concerning growing, and having to do with the fact that we don't get the same wavelength light from the sun that we used to get. And so there needs to be a little bit more redshift in there. So a lot of people who are doing indoor growing aren't just growing weed, they're growing tomato plants and lettuce and stuff, and they're growing it horizontally, and they're growing it in some really collective and ingenious ways. But back when Epcot Center first opened in Orlando, when I lived in Tampa, um, we went. Many of us went over there and applied for jobs before I moved up here. Actually, I applied at Disney World. Epcot came a little later, but anyway, I went over there with some friends of mine when I was down in Florida visiting, and we went over there, and they take you into the section that's called the land. And if you've ever been down there or did a little research, they, the lettuce grows on conveyor belts, and goes down these long conveyor belts, and it goes through sprayers, and there's lights, and, and then this is grown over here, that's grown over there. And for example, one of the things that I learned, what I thought was, I still find it fascinating. If you go in any of the flowers, anywhere, trees, flowers, bushes, no matter where you are that are live, if if you go there on Tuesday and take a picture, the flowers that are blooming at the time, you can go back on Friday and take a picture, and you won't know that they've changed the plants because the flowers would have fallen off the things. So they literally have two or three plants for every single landscape thing there is. If there's a bush that goes out, they go in at night when they close the place down. And they have, because a friend of mine was working with the landscape artist there, and that he said they will come in, even if it's a big tree, they got one. They'll come in, pick it up, do this, landscape it back, and you can come back the next day and take a picture in the same spot, and you won't know that anything has been moved or that it's different in any way. And I was like, what? And he goes, now there's certain, seasons of the year and stuff that, but to the point now, they may make a change in the landscape because of the season where certain plants won't grow. Um, but they will have backups for those. So in the spring, there might be more of this type, like lilies love, certain lilies grow in the spring. We've got certain things that are blooming now in the fall. So, and the dahlia, they go on and off. So, but they have different plants and everything in the landscape. They can go in, dig it up, replant it, and it'll look the same tomorrow. Interesting. But also kind of creepy. But with that said, though, they do it all with, hydroponic type gardening and advanced gardening. And this was back in the 70s. Walt Disney might have been a creepo, but he also, honest to God, had a vision for the future. And for a long time, I had a clipping that when it was a big deal, the over there where the Disney World is now, they wouldn't let him buy one piece of land. So he had people come in and buy up a section here, and they'd come over here like they did in the Old West. And then one day they all got together, and they were all subsidiaries of Walt Disney, this LLC and that one. So he ended up with a third of the county. And he was like, "Hey, I'm my own government here. Y'all ain't gonna." They were like, "Well, you can't dig these ponds, and you can't do all this earth movement. And what about the orange trees?" And he goes, "Wait till I'm done." But the county commissioners, and there wasn't anybody that was over there at the time. So, but there was a picture of Walt Disney out there with his hard hat on, literally staking out the place where he wanted this to go and where he wanted that to go. And he had a bundle of stakes under his arm, and he would, and that's what he was doing. And it was like, holy crap. So whatever, crazy, weird thing he might have had on the side, he was a visionary in a lot of other ways. I mean, look at the robotics and stuff. Oh my God. The Hall of Presidents back in the day, where the presidents turned and spoke and their hands moved, and that was like, what? The ghost house thing, where, there was to my knowledge, one of the first places where they were using 3D holograms for the ghost inside the haunted house. So way ahead of their time. Where was he? Where was Walt Disney and his guys getting information from? You know what I'm saying? But anyway, but innovative, and did it go sideways? A lot of people would say that, but the bottom line is the initial idea and the initial intent was a good one, in my humble opinion. It just went sideways along the way. But I would take still, though, the idea of the Epcot Center. If you've never been there, you can Google it. But it's got different, there's a section that's Morocco, and there's a section that's Italy, and I don't know if it actually is, but anyway, so there are different sections of Epcot Center where it represents different nations around the world. It's a small world after all. Oh, that's another story. We went over there and applied for jobs at Walt Disney World back early on, when it wasn't really even open yet. And so as part of the deal, you filled out your application and did your interview, and then they gave you so many passes. They let you in the park for free because it really wasn't open. But a lot of the rides, it was back when you had tickets. So a lot of the rides weren't even working. So, so we went on this one, because we had extra white tickets. We went on It's a Small World, right? We get about a third of the way in, and it stops. So we're sitting in these little carts, right? It's a small world after all. And after 5 minutes, people in the cars in front of us and behind us are starting to go, "Turn up the music. It's driving us nuts." And we're sitting, I'm laughing. I don't know. I'm like 18 years old, maybe 19. And so we're sitting over there. But after 20 minutes, we'd move a little bit into the next section. It's a small world. Oh my God. And it still gives me nightmares. And it was like stuck in a horror show. Nothing happened. We just couldn't go anywhere. The ride was stuck. But and stuck in It's a Small World, could have been any other place, but no, it was there, and the music played on, and you'd have thought somebody would have went over and just hit the switch and just shut that shit off, but nope. It's a small world after all. But in that's a good way to sort of bring it back to what I was talking about earlier. In nature, you know, creatures great and small, they all have a value in the universe. See how I brought that around? And if we can sing It's a Small World, and it is, and we should look at the smallness of the things on this planet and understand that everything is connected in that. And so, with our spirit and with our nature, and when we understand that and believe it and have faith in it, regardless of whatever else happens on this planet, we can just understand that we are always a part of the nature of things. Now, I don't want to get eaten by a lion, but it could happen. Um, but the idea, though, that stuff happens in nature all the time, and we're just a part of it. So, try not to freak out. Now, what man creates, that's some shit. So, but with that said, after 2 hours and 40 minutes, wow, and I went a long time. Barry says, or me, I think marijuana could affect memory. What did you just say? All right. Well, I think to me, there's a certain part of my brain that works better with 3 hits. Anything over that, I'm stoned. Forget it. So, but even at my old age, I still don't want to be stoned. I want to have 2 or 3 hits, get that body, loosen up. I'm good. Good. Uh, Coffee's on. Yeah, I still got some left over here. What horse med? Listen, as sort of an aside, um, yeah, Estate says the supplement for horses are cheaper in big quantities. Also, we buy it from Poland. Yeah, here's something now. I'm just saying, we would go to the vets. Now, they got, expensive horses and cows and stuff because it's mostly an agricultural region down here. But horses, cows, pigs, etc. So, you got a 20 or $30,000 prize bull. If that bull needs or whatever needs a shot of penicillin, for example, it says not for human consumption. But do you think that penicillin's less than what they give us? Because, the price on our life is $250 from Social Security. So, a $30,000 bull, you think that so anyway, back in the day, my nurse friend, we'd get a bottle of penicillin from the vet, and you can pick up needles from any pharmacy pretty much anymore. And so we'd give ourselves shots of penicillin when we needed them, and screw the doctor kind of thing. And it was like, because if we won't, she's going to give us a shot, at least, and maybe us a prescription. But at least we could give ourselves shots with the penicillin. Now, am I suggesting that you all do it? Let me just say there are alternatives out there if you check them out, because them folks ain't going to sell shit. I mean, there are folks that have hound dogs that, if they need a shot or something like that. So I'm telling you, some of those meds that you can get through the vets and um, actually, we got it from a veterinary supply, but anybody could go in there. So it was sort of like a wholesale house. But anyway, so yeah, there are other things about that. You know, Isby, um, that cures. Yeah, yep. There's also something else, and y'all check on this. Now, Stuart Swerdlow did this the other day, this last weekend, and he was talking about the vitamin, and it's called L-lysine. In fact, I have a bottle of it right here. Okay, backwards, or can you read it? L-lysine. Okay, and these are 500 milligram tablets. Now, I got these because I learned years ago that it was good for cold sores, herpes type things, and that if you take, I usually take a couple a week. You know, I might skip a day or forget, and I go, oh, okay, and then I'll take one. But here's the thing: they're saying that L-lysine is one of the natural things that can help keep you from getting the 19, and that one of the things that the government has recently done is that they're not going to make it anymore to sell as an over-the-counter vitamin, that you'll have to have a prescription or get it from the pharmacist, because they found out, whoops, that's one of them things that can keep people healthy. So I went to the store and bought 3 bottles and felt bad because there was only 5 on the shelf. But there's supposedly, like, within the next couple of months, whatever stock runs out, that's it. They're not going to, anything else then will be through prescription. Now, I don't know if that's true. I haven't seen anything else, but most of the stuff that Stuart Swerdlow puts out is pretty damn accurate. So anyway, just saying. And L-lysine's got some other amoxicillin antibiotic from pet store. Yeah, for goldfish. There you go. See? Yeah, Tractor Supply uses, and it depends on the Tractor Supply. Some of them do have things and some of them don't. But yeah. So anyway, all right. I'm almost 3 hours into this, and it's daylight here now, and I'm gonna have to take a nap. So either that or go outside and do something. So, but I've been sitting here long enough. I got a butt cramp, and I do have to pee. And I figure y'all got something better to do than sit here and let me yak at you. But it is good. I absolutely love to hang out with y'all. There are times when I go, man, them people ain't don't want to, hear me yak about shit. And then I get on here and there's 9 of you here at 7 in the morning. So uh, yeah, the vax. Well, one of the things, and I talked about it. I A couple of months ago, I did a sci-fi story, What If Happens. And some of the things that have been talked about is that some of these vacs may have nanoparticles in them, particulates, that would react in certain ways to certain frequencies, thus the different frequency of G's out there, okay? So that something could be triggered. And there's been a couple of sci-fi movies that have done almost exactly that, verbatim, in that, it's triggered by a frequency or by light, or maybe you get a flash across the screen from, your computer or your cell phone or whatever. And that triggers this event, you know, for those people who would have the nanobot in them. So you got to just scratch your head and go, can we trust them? And my answer is I used to, but I'm really not so sure anymore. And with other things that have happened with children and some adults, I mean, I used to, I told I have said this before, when I'm was at the doctor. She was like, you're going to get your flu shot. And I was like, well, doc, they make me sick. And she goes, okay, so you're allergic to them. And I'm like, well, you're allergic to them, Dave. Yeah, oh, right, I am. Okay. And, I haven't had a sickness like the flu since my last flu shot, which has been probably going on 5 years now. And so if somebody says you want a flu shot, my answer is no. If I get it naturally, okay, but you ain't giving it to me or whatever else is in that, because I got sick and friends of mine got sick, all about my age. So, yeah, iodine kills a lot of stuff. And, you know, you can also add it to your skin and you can absorb it without having to actually take it. But yeah, be careful with the iodine. 16 hertz at 130 dB compression rate. Yeah. Hey, Teresa. Wow. What a face to wake up to. Yeah, this ugly mug. Holy crap, right? Good morning. Yeah, and I'm fixing to say adios here in a few minutes, but I really am stiff. Playing with the children yesterday it was fun, but you know, I'm, I need to do it more often. I need to run around the yard more. And here in a couple of days, it's going to be so cold. I'm going to have to be chopping wood. I have enough stacked up and stashed, but when I switched to my new heater, it's a smaller hole, and my logs are too long, so I'm going to have to cut them in half to be able to put them in my new one. But I got plenty of wood already, at least pre-cut, and so it won't take me much to cut up the rest of this. But where I had my wood pile, ants had moved in over the summer, and so I've had to move the logs and spray for the ants and clean it out. So, and I moved a lot of the wood under a better shelter. So even though it rained overnight, most of my wood didn't get a drop of water on it. So, and it's supposed to rain like hell tomorrow. They said as at least 2.5 and possibly up to 4 inches of rain tomorrow for this area. So whatever's coming is supposed to be a good one. We need the rain. We haven't had a good rain in a while, so it's expected. But in my living here for all these years, the months between September and December have, for some reason, always been the driest. And not that we haven't had storms and stuff come through, but in the summertime, there are afternoon showers and things and stuff. But for down here, and there's been this little area that's been on the drought sector. And guess what? I'm in this area. But it can rain a mile. It can be raining in Meigs, which is 6 miles west of me. And we won't get a drop anywhere near this way. And it'll be flooded over there, folks over here are using irrigation, and them folks over there are like, we've had too much, 6 miles away. So, but anyway, such is the way of the weather. But I also think it has to do with terrain. I've been studying this over the years, like, why won't it rain here, but it's raining over there, Anyway, but I was surprised when I went down to the woods yesterday, actually, and there's a lot more water down there than I was expecting, which is a good thing. That means I got some decent groundwater still here. When there's water on top, that means there's still water in the ground. But this time of year, in fact, in November one year, well, about 18 years ago, about 2002, I had, or three, I had to crawl back down in the well because it was so dry and dig some out. And I've had another cave in. So I'm pumping a lot of red clay up from the bottom for some reason. And it's like, well, so everything has sort of a red tint to it. It's a clay tint. So my water looks clear until you let it sit for 10 minutes. And then it's like, ooh, where'd that dirt come from? But to the point, though, that I've understood this for a long time. And many people take clay, they eat it, buy it, whatever. So it's in my water naturally. And, it's not like it comes out in clumps, although it has. Um, I drained it. I've got filters to the house, but there's still these fine particulates of clay that will come together. And it's in my coffee, it's in the this. Okay, it's just clay. But I also wonder if that isn't what helps for as healthy as I am at my age, where other people have issues like with city water and chlorine and that kind of thing. I don't have none of that. Way back in the day, folks told me, well, you should pour chlorine in your well water to make sure there's nothing in it. And I did that for many years. And one day I said, I'm not pouring any more bleach in my well because I can drop a bucket down in there, haul it up with a tickle on a rope kind of thing, and the water's just as clear and tastes just as fresh. And it's just like there's nothing living in it. There, I don't see any contaminants. You know, why would I pour bleach, which I know ain't good for me, into this perfectly good well with all this clay around it? You know what I mean? So I quit putting anything in it. You know, bottom line. You're absolutely welcome, Isby. Oh, no problem, Teresa. I should be asleep myself, but it was one of them things where if you watch the beginning of it, um, some agitation going on, and so the conversation has started out with, my feeling agitation in the quantum, if you will. But anyway, we've moved on from that, and I really am starting to get tired. Travis, it's good to have you here. Maybe put charcoal water. Yes. Well, I have charcoal filters, the whole house filters. There's one at the well. There's one here in the house. So I have two filters, and I interchange. One of them has just a regular, the white micron one, whatever that is, and then my other one here at the house is a charcoal filter. So I have both, sediment and a charcoal here at the house. So but anyway, yeah, and that's what I've been doing for years, Travis, is just changing out the filters. But they sometimes is like, uh, how is this? How is this clay getting by two filters? I mean, just okay, But anyway, detoxified iodine. All right, my friends, almost 3 hours. By the time I get done giving us a prayer out, it'll be three. And I know you all have your individual lives, and for whatever you may be your trials and tribulations or local chaos, as it were, in your particular lives, I continue to pray that you'll be able to see it for what it is and work through it and keep a level head. We got 5 minutes to be upset and then we need to get back on track. And because that's just the nature of things. A bull won't stay pissed off for long, unless you provoke him or stay in the pen. But, they'll see you, look at you, and, but the chances of them, like, continuing on for hours wanting to kill you if you haven't jumped the fence. But the idea, though, that is that in nature, things like that don't really last long. And so it's not natural for us to brood for long periods of time, although animals do, and it's in nature, but it's unnatural even, for a dog to be depressed and we've seen that in our lifetimes. So, but anyway, I continue to pray that the chaos that is there, that we are, each of us in our own ways will be able to correct it in our lives as much as we can, at least be able to recognize it and keep from freaking out. Yeah, because it's going to get weird, don't know how, but we all know it is. So, but remember, We are all spirits, have been, always will be. Keep the faith that we are a part of the universe. Keep that faith that each of us is connected to the source and each other. And we're all supporting each other. And, Isby says he woke up, and he was glad I was on this morning. There are times when I don't, and I've talked about this, I don't know why I'm supposed to get on, but somebody out there needs to have a conversation or needs to share or whatever. So, I just take it for, oh, okay, I'm going to do this. And, there was 14 people in here at one time. And I'm like, what? It's 5 a.m, but, you all show up for whatever reason. So you are what makes this. The card readings I do, sometimes they're meant for me, but I pull them for you. And so you are the recipients of the messages. I am just a messenger. So, and owl is time to go to bed as the messenger in my owl medicine. But I continue to pray that each and every day, that each and every one of you, I was trying to get to three. I just did. I continue to pray that each and every day, that each and every one of you will continue to learn to accept and receive the healing, the knowledge, the wisdom, and the many blessings from the universe. I continue to pray that each and every day, each and every one of you, your friends, your family, all of your relatives, and all of your relations, past, present, and to come, will learn to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the blessings from the universe. And in that law of three, I continue to pray that each and every one of you and everyone that you may meet will be able to learn how to accept and receive and continue to share the knowledge and the wisdom and the blessings that you're already learning to receive from the universe. We need to keep it up, keep the faith, stay strong, and remember, we are all part of this universe. We're in this together, brothers and sisters. Regardless of how bad it is, we'll make it. Okay? Isby, only way I can get out of this dark is to banish someone I care for. Sometimes you have to do it, and it's difficult. It's hard. Oh my God. Ian, good to see you. Barry, thank you. Teresa, as always. Maverick, love you, brother. Barry, okay. Travis, okay. If I missed anybody, my apologies. Y'all have a great day. Okay. Be careful. Cheers, everyone. Yep, yep. Ciao, Ian. And if Michelle were here, she'd be typing in Ween. And we want to say thank you, Bob. And until next time, be safe. And y'all keep your stuff together. And thank you for sharing all of your wisdom and your energy. So, as we say down here in South Georgia, TTFN, ta ta for now. See you later, alligator. Cheers, everybody.